Tropical Storm Bonnie to make landfall in Nicaragua tonight. Bonnie's adventure continues with the storm about to make landfall in Nicaragua, probably the most uncomfortable part of Bonnie's journey from the storm's perspective and from ours, as it is its most threatening to land, and it will be during its period, we expect, unless things change further down the line. Right now it's got winds of 45 miles per hour, fairly modest, but the main concern we've got really is its rainfall potential, which is quite high from this storm, although the winds will of course be an issue too. It's moving just south of west, pretty much west, at 17 miles per hour, and is of course a tropical storm. It's taken a while for it to get there, as we know. It's been well publicized. It's still got that tropical storm wind field on the northern side only, and it's at 11.3 north, 82.5 degrees west, which puts it only 130 kilometers from Monkey Point, which is the closest settlement from the storm, 157 kilometers from Bluefields, 227 from San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica, 415 from Managua, the capital of Nicaragua, and 588 from Tegucigalpa, the capital of Honduras. And as you saw there, rolling on the bottom, those tropical storm warnings, which are in effect on either side of the landmass, on Nicaragua and on the Costa Rica side as well, ahead of this storm's impact. The primary hazard then is still flash flooding. Heavy rain from Tropical Storm Bonnie is likely to cause flash flooding along the eastern coast of Nicaragua and along the Nicaragua-Costa Rica border region. We could expect in excess of 10 inches of rain and widespread amounts of 7 inches or higher as well. We'll take a look, dig in more of a deep dive into what we're expecting on the models in a moment. As for its forecast though, and its forecast wind field, this is what we're expecting. Landfall there tonight, into Saturday, into the eastern Pacific, gets itself established, and likely gradual strengthening throughout the beginning of next week. National Hurricane Center expect that it will become a hurricane by the time we get to Monday or Tuesday, and will continue that way through Thursday, possibly towards Thursday. That's the end of the bit that we've got here, but the National Hurricane Center of course only out to 5 days. There they are with their forecast on the left hand side, and a depiction of the tropical storm warning areas. Interesting to note that ADT values are higher than National Hurricane Center's at the moment, so on satellite imagery it's certainly wowing the algorithm, with the NOAA ADT as high as 60 miles per hour right now, but no indication, nothing solid to suggest that it is stronger than the currently marked 45 miles per hour. As you can see, here's the highest chances for tropical storm force winds cutting through the lake in Nicaragua. I forget the name, apologies, we don't cover this area very often. And then out into the eastern Pacific, still 10 to 20% chances along the coast of Mexico, part of Guatemala and El Salvador as well, so those areas should be watching out for those potential chances. Here's a GFS model showing how the storm models through there and into the eastern Pacific, and then it remains fairly compact as mentioned, and the GFS suggests that it will be at least flirting with hurricane status. I don't think it's fully committed to that just yet, at least not until much later on in the model run towards the end of day 5, 6, 7. Until then, it would appear that strengthening will be very gradual indeed. And there it is at the end once again. And here is the water vapor mock-up showing the influence of the storm, much larger than the wind field as a matter of fact. So as we continue along this trend here, it looks like the heavy rain amounts could continue along the coast well away or well beyond where the strong winds will be. So that's something for us also to keep in mind with this storm in particular. But of course the immediate threat of wind will be most prominent right now along the southeastern coast of Nicaragua and towards the western coast. Of course, a fairly short land area that it will be crossing, one of the thinnest points along the American supercontinent, you could call it, only extending around 300 kilometers, I believe, with a big lake in the middle. And in terms of rainfall estimates, here you can see what we're pulling up on the GFS graphics now. We could be looking at 16 inches in some parts of southern Nicaragua near the coast with, we're near the border with Costa Rica, and a secondary large area of high rainfall to the north, which could be occurring from its one of its bands. And then looking up the coast of El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, you could be still seeing isolated amounts getting up to around 8, maybe even 10 inches. Too early to see what really we're looking at right now regarding those areas, but the chances are getting more concrete. Sea surface temperatures just before landfall might be a little bit on the low side due to the storm zone upwelling, around 25-26 degrees Celsius. In the Pacific side, despite low oceanic heat content, that probably won't affect a small storm like this one that it will be, and so it will have a decent chance of strengthening with sea surface temperatures up into around 28 degrees Celsius. So that is not going to be a problem for this storm as it dwells in the eastern Pacific. Here's a look at some rapid scan satellite imagery of Bonnie's progress over the last few hours. Visible imagery certainly starting to look impressive, with a good amount of deep convection near the center as the light starts to fail just before it makes landfall, and that's expected to occur very soon now. So that's a look at the visible. Let's see if we can take a look at one of the other types. This is the water vapor imagery there. We'll get a zoomed out look at that in a moment. Let's just check the infrared, and you can see the outline there just before we get to the new imagery of the coastlines. And then once again there you can see it's that northern band as well that's producing a lot of convective cloud tops, and then therefore probably a lot of rain underneath it. So that's why we're looking really fairly concerned for the whole eastern coast of Nicaragua for heavy rainfall inland over mountainous areas. But the main convective area there near the center still bubbling away. Not the strongest storm we'll be seeing this year, but certainly one that could cause serious problems in terms of rainfall with flash flooding. As we mentioned, potentially over 10 inches and even towards 16 inches of rain still yet to fall. Let's zoom out a little bit to the wider picture, and you can see all of the storm there now presented on this image. Looking back at the water vapor imagery there it is once again. So it's got a decent flow about it. The dry air is quite far away from it. It's still trying to get itself more symmetric after it's been extremely asymmetric in the lead up to this storm actually developing. But I think it will look much better on the eastern Pacific side after it moves over the Central American continent. And then also it's likely to be a rather small system, small and compact, whilst it moves through the eastern Pacific as we saw in those model runs. But satellite imagery looking decent. This storm has a serious threat for strong winds, but most of all I would say the flash flooding is going to be a concern with this one.